The transport shuttle cut through the dark edge of space and slowed as it reached the training station. The station floated alone above a heavy planet with thick clouds and strong gravity. This place was chosen on purpose. Many recruits failed here. Some quit, some were sent home injured. The station had a reputation across several systems. If someone survived training here, they were considered useful. A mixed squad stepped out of the shuttle and onto the metal deck. Boots hit the floor in uneven rhythm. Some were light and quick. Some were slow and careful. Armor types were different, shapes were different, and even the way they breathed was different. This squad was not built for comfort. It was built for cooperation. Among them walked a human named Elias. He was not tall compared to some of the others. He was not wide or sharp or armored with natural plates. He looked almost plain. His uniform was standard. His face showed no strong emotion. On his left arm, under the sleeve, was a dark metal band locked tightly around his forearm. It looked heavy. It looked old. A few squad members noticed it right away. A long-limbed scout with pale skin tilted his head and stared. A short, thick-bodied trooper made a low clicking sound that meant curiosity. Another soldier, covered in light armor and feathers, glanced once and then looked away with mild interest. Nobody asked. At the end of the deck stood the instructor. His posture was straight, his voice sharp, and his eyes moved constantly. He had trained hundreds of squads. Most failed to impress him. He spoke loud enough to echo. "Welcome to your evaluation cycle. This station will test your limits. It will test your teamwork. It will test your survival instincts. Some of you will not like what you find." The instructor paced slowly in front of them. "You come from different worlds, different gravity, different air, different strength. Out there, those differences will get you killed if you do not learn fast." His eyes paused on Elias for half a second, just long enough to notice the slight drag in his step. The human was moving slower than the rest, not weak, but careful, like every movement had weight. The instructor continued, "You will begin with basic movement drills, no weapons. No powers, no tricks, no tea." He looked at Elias again. "And no special equipment." Elias did not react. He simply nodded once. The squad was led into the training hall. The room was wide and open, with metal flooring and lines painted across it. Gravity here was higher than average, tuned to challenge most species. Some of the squad adjusted quickly. Others struggled. Muscles tightened. Breathing grew heavier. Elias felt it the moment he stepped inside. The pressure pressed down on his spine, his knees, his lungs. He exhaled slowly and kept walking. The gravity band on his arm hummed quietly, almost like it was alive. They ran, they climbed, they lifted weighted frames. The squad moved together at first, but soon gaps appeared. Some were faster, some slowed down. Elias stayed near the back, sweat forming on his brow. His steps were solid, but slow. A few squad members noticed. The thick-bodied trooper snorted softly. "The human is struggling already," the scout replied without malice.
"Humans come from medium gravity worlds. This place is heavy."
Another voice joined. "Then why bring extra weight?" They glanced at Elias's arm again. Elias heard them. He always did. He said nothing. After the drills, the instructor called them to line up. "You will now perform a team balance exercise. You will cross the hall while carrying shared load units. If one falls, all fail." The load units were brought out. They were large metal blocks designed to adjust weight based on the weakest member. Fair on paper. The squad lifted together. The moment the weight settled, several members staggered. Muscles shook. One nearly dropped the unit, but recovered. Elias adjusted his grip. His arms trembled slightly. His breathing slowed. They began moving, step by step. The floor felt harder. The air felt thicker. Sweat dripped. Joints strained. Halfway across the hall, one member slipped. The unit tilted. Panic spread. Everyone fought to keep balance. Elias planted his feet. The gravity band pulsed once. Very faint. Almost nothing. The unit steadied. They completed the crossing. The instructor raised an eyebrow but said nothing. During the break, the squad gathered near the wall. Some sat, some leaned. Elias stayed standing, stretching his fingers slowly. One of the squad finally spoke to him. "You move like the floor is heavier for you than us." Elias looked at him. "It is." The answer confused them. Another asked, "Then why not remove that thing?" Elias glanced at his arm. "It stays on." No explanation followed. The instructor returned sooner than expected. Next drill, competitive assessment. Next drill, the room shifted. Panels moved. Obstacles rose from the floor. "This time it is not about teamwork," the instructor said. "It is about pressure." He pointed to a control panel. "Gravity will increase during the drill." Several squad members reacted with concern. The instructor continued, "Those who cannot adapt will fall. Those who fall will be noted." His gaze locked onto Elias. "This is your chance to prove your place." The drill started. Gravity increased. Not enough to crush, but enough to test. The squad moved forward. Some slowed immediately. Others pushed harder. Elias felt the pressure deepen. His knees bent slightly. His vision narrowed. The gravity band vibrated, responding drowse. He ignored it. An obstacle rose ahead, a high wall. Others struggled to climb. Elias reached the base and paused. He could hear labored breathing around him. A voice mocked lightly. "Human? Need help?" Elias shook his head. He climbed, slowly, carefully. By the time he reached the top, others were already moving ahead. He dropped down on the other side with a heavy landing. Gravity increased again. Someone fell. Then another. The instructor watched closely. Elias felt his muscles scream. His heart pounded. The band on his arm grew warm. He stopped. The squad pushed on. The instructor's voice cut through the noise. "Why are you stopping?" Elias looked up. Permission to continue at full capacity. The room went quiet. The instructor hesitated.
"Explain." Elias raised his arm slightly.
"This limits me?" A few squad members laughed softly. The instructor frowned. "Remove it." Elias shook his head. "Cannot." The instructor stepped closer.
Then you fail.
Elias met his gaze. "Or I stop holding back." Silence filled the hall. The instructor studied him for a long moment. "Proceed." Elias inhaled. His thumb pressed against the hidden control. The gravity band activated. The air changed. The floor groaned. Gravity surged. Not slowly, all at once. The squad collapsed. Bodies slammed down. Armor dented. Limbs shook. Cries filled the hall. Only Elias remained standing. His knees bent, but he stayed upright. The instructor stared in shock as alarms blared. Sensors flashed warnings. Elias exhaled through clenched teeth.
I warned you.
The gravity continued to press down, and this was only the beginning. The squad lay on the floor, gasping, unable to move against the sudden surge of gravity. Metal groaned under the pressure, lights flickered, and alarms screamed warnings across the training hall. Some limbs trembled uncontrollably. The sound of armor cracking and boots sliding filled the air. Each member of the squad realized, almost too late, that the human had not been exaggerating about the gravity band. Elias stood steady, knees slightly bent, chest rising and falling slowly. He felt the pressure, but it was manageable. The others were not so lucky. A tall alien with long limbs tried to stand and collapsed again. The short, thick-bodied trooper groaned, fingers pressed against the floor, trying to lift his body. The scout tried to crawl, but the weight pinned him down. Panic spread faster than the increase in gravity itself. The instructor, rooted to the spot, watched the scene unfold with a mixture of awe and fear. He had seen human resilience in reports, but this was different. He had never witnessed this much force wielded by one person, and that person was not using weapons. No energy blasts, no strength enhancements, nothing but a small band wrapped around a human arm. He realized that the human was deliberately testing them now. They were the test subjects of a demonstration that could have killed them. Elias surveyed the room. His eyes moved over the fallen squad. He noted who was struggling the most. The short, armored trooper was gasping, his chest moving rapidly but barely lifting his body. The scout's pale face was strained, muscles twitching as he tried to crawl forward. The feathered soldier was lying flat, feathers ruffled and body pinned to the metal floor. Elias raised his arm slightly, adjusting the band. A faint hum radiated from it. His fingers tapped a small, hidden control. The gravity surged another notch. The squad groaned as the pressure increased even more. Each breath became a challenge. Bones ached, joints screamed. The floor seemed to bend beneath them. The instructor took a step forward. His boots clanged on the metal. Elias turned his gaze toward him. "Do you understand now?" "Aye," Elias said without raising his voice. The instructor nodded slowly, not trusting his words to escape clearly. He saw the determination, the control, the confidence in the human's eyes. He had underestimated humanity, and it was a mistake that could have ended badly if the human chose to push further. Some of the squad tried to speak, but the words choked in their throats. One finally managed to gasp, "What are you?" Elias exhaled slowly. "I am what you will have to be if you survive your own worlds. I am what humans become when they train in impossible conditions." A moment of silence fell. Only the alarms and the soft hum of the gravity band filled the air. The squad lay still, too weak to respond. A few eyes met Elias's briefly, a mix of fear and realization. Elias pressed the control again, lowering the gravity just slightly. Not enough for them to move freely, but enough to relieve the worst strain. Slowly, some of the squad lifted their heads. The thick-bodied trooper tried to crawl to his feet. The scout leaned forward on trembling arms. The feathered soldier sat up, feathers flattened, but eyes wide. They all understood something now. The human had the ability to control their environment in ways they had never imagined. And it was not just raw strength. It was skill, precision, and restraint. The instructor cleared his throat. "You are exceeding all known limits," he said. The words were quiet but carried weight. "How is this possible?" Elias did not answer immediately. He looked at each member of the squad again, studying their faces. "You will learn soon enough. For now, move." The squad obeyed, slowly getting to their feet under the reduced gravity. The metal groaned beneath their weight. They moved cautiously, muscles still trembling, sweat dripping into their eyes. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. They realized that surviving here was not just about strength. It was about endurance, strategy, and understanding the human body in ways they had never considered. The instructor motioned for them to continue the drill. The walls of the hall shifted again, opening new paths and obstacles. Gravity remained high, though not at the peak Elias had demonstrated. The squad moved forward, careful but slower than usual. Every step felt like a struggle. The human moved ahead easily, adjusting his speed to the pressure around him. One of the squad, a smaller alien with dark reflective skin, tried to keep pace with Elias. He stumbled, almost falling over a rising obstacle. Elias extended a hand, not touching him but gesturing a technique. Bend the knees, shift the weight, exhale slowly. The alien followed, and for a moment he moved with more stability. He realized that human training was not brute force. It was intelligence, awareness, and discipline. The obstacles grew more complex. Walls moved unpredictably. Platforms rose and fell. Some surfaces became slick. The squad struggled, but Elias navigated them smoothly. Every motion of his body, every adjustment of the gravity band, allowed him to remain upright. He felt the strain deep in his muscles, but he was in control. The instructor observed silently, noting the reactions of his squad. He had sent many through training halls, and this was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. The human was not just surviving. He was teaching, demonstrating, and testing all at once. The gravity band was an extension of his will, a tool that turned weakness into strength. A sudden alarm sounded, different from the previous ones. Red lights flashed across the hall. Elias turned toward the source. A panel on the far wall blinked with warnings. Sensors detected structural stress in certain areas of the hall. The walls had shifted too quickly, and a few platforms were dangerously tilted. The squad froze. Fear spread faster than fatigue. Some attempted to climb onto safer ground, but gravity still pressed down. Their movements were awkward, clumsy, and slow. Elias raised his hand, and the band pulsed once. The tilted platform stabilized. Gravity decreased just enough to allow better footing. A few of the squad stumbled, but did not fall. They looked at him with gratitude and awe. The instructor took a step back, realizing that the human was not only stronger than any of them, but also more intelligent in controlling the environment. This was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was training, survival, and adaptation combined into one. Elias continued forward, leading the squad through the increasingly dangerous hall. Obstacles required timing, strength, and coordination. Every step was a lesson. He demonstrated techniques silently, and the squad followed, slowly improving under the crushing pressure. Despite the fear and pain, a sense of determination began to grow. The squad realized that they could survive this hall if they observed, learned, and adapted. Elias was not just a soldier. He was a teacher, in real time, showing them what humans had evolved to endure. Hours passed, or perhaps it was minutes. Time seemed distorted under extreme gravity. The squad moved as best they could, following Elias through the shifting hall. Some members faltered, some adapted, and some observed carefully, learning techniques to preserve energy and balance. Each step forward was hard-earned, and every breath was precious. The human paused at the end of a long corridor. The gravity decreased slightly, and the squad collapsed onto the floor, gasping and sweating. The human looked around, assessing injuries and fatigue. No one had broken bones, but muscles were strained, joints ached, and every member was drenched in sweat. Elias knelt slightly, examining the condition of the squad. He activated the band one last time to stabilize gravity further. Then he spoke, his voice calm but commanding. Rest. Recover. Observe. The squad listened. They knew better than to question him. Each one realized that they had been underestimating humans all along. This was not arrogance or luck. This was evolution, training, and discipline combined. Humans had survived in conditions that would have killed most other species. And here in this hall, the proof was undeniable. The instructor, standing at a distance, finally spoke. He did not reprimand, scold, or demand explanation. Instead, he nodded slowly, acknowledging what he had witnessed. Elias had changed the perspective of the squad and the instructor. Humans were not just one species among many. They were a force shaped by impossible conditions, capable of endurance and control beyond expectation. The squad slowly rose, ready to continue. Fear remained, but so did a new respect. Every member now understood the challenge, and the lesson was clear. Survival required more than strength. It required understanding, adaptation, and the kind of discipline humans had honed for generations. As they moved to the next hall, Elias's arm remained steady. The gravity band hummed softly, a silent reminder of what humans could endure and what they could teach. The squad knew that this was only the beginning of the tests, and they would need every bit of strength, intelligence, and courage to survive what lay ahead. But for the first time, they felt hope. Guided by a human who had already conquered the impossible, the squad moved cautiously through the next section of the training station. The halls were narrower here, and the walls shifted unpredictably. Gravity was still high, though lower than before, and every step required attention. The squad members were exhausted, muscles tight and joints sore, yet they continued, each of them watching Elias closely. Elias led the way, arm raised slightly, adjusting the gravity band with small movements. The band hummed softly, responding to his control. He moved with confidence, every step deliberate, balancing the extra pressure and conserving energy. Behind him, the squad learned to adapt. They began to imitate his posture, his breathing, his slow and controlled movements. A wall shifted suddenly, rising in front of the squad. Some tried to jump, but the added gravity slowed them. A younger alien trooper slipped, landing hard on the floor. Pain flashed across his face, but he did not cry out. Elias glanced back and raised his arm slightly. Gravity decreased just enough to let him regain his footing. He nodded at the trooper, silently encouraging him. Ha! The squad began to move again. They understood now that the human was not only stronger, but also precise and deliberate. Each movement of the band altered the environment, helping or challenging them in real time. Every obstacle tested their endurance, their observation, and their coordination. The walls of the hall shifted once more, creating a maze-like corridor. The squad hesitated at the first intersection. Sensors beeped, indicating possible instability ahead. Elias moved forward without hesitation. He tapped the control on his band lightly, increasing gravity on the floor just enough to stabilize it. The squad followed, stepping carefully, learning to trust both the human and themselves. A sudden panel opened above them, revealing a hanging platform. Several squad members froze, unsure how to proceed. The scout tried to leap, but his body was slowed too much by the weight. Elias moved quickly, calculating the timing, and adjusted the gravity band. The platform shifted slightly, bringing it closer. He gestured for the scout to jump again. This time the scout made it, landing with a heavy thud but safe. Relief passed across his face. Wah! The squad began to realize that survival here required patience and observation, not just brute strength. The corridor twisted and turned, and gravity shifted slightly from left to right. Some squad members stumbled, struggling to keep their balance. Elias adjusted the band subtly, countering the shifting pressure. He moved like a dancer, balancing force and control. The squad watched, taking notes in their minds, copying small movements to stabilize themselves. At the next obstacle, a long bridge of metal slats hung over a gap. The bridge swayed slightly with every step. The heavier squad members leaned forward, careful not to lose balance. The scout tried to run across but slipped, hanging by his hands from the edge. Elias extended a hand, not touching, but guiding his movement with gestures. Gravity shifted, giving him just enough assistance to climb safely back onto the bridge. The squad followed, each one learning a new lesson about control, balance, and timing. The instructor, observing from a safe distance, shook his head in disbelief. He had trained hundreds of squads, tested thousands of recruits, but he had never seen such adaptation under extreme conditions. The human was not only surviving, he was teaching the squad without words, showing them how to endure pressure and use intelligence to overcome obstacles. The squad paused for a brief rest. Every member was drenched in sweat, breathing hard, but they were still moving. Elias remained standing, adjusting the band, monitoring the environment. He looked around at the squad and nodded slightly. They had survived so far because they had learned, adapted, and followed his lead. As they resumed, a sudden alarm echoed through the hall. Red lights flashed, and sensors indicated movement in the distance. Elias froze, sensing the shift before the alarms could catch it. He realized that the station's automated security drones were activating. Mistaking the squad for intruders, gravity surged slightly in response to the automated systems. The squad struggled to maintain balance as the floor shook beneath them. Elias made a quick decision. He adjusted the band, stabilizing the floor and lowering gravity just enough to allow the squad to move quickly. The drones approached, hovering just above the ground, scanning for threats. Elias calculated the timing and directed the squad through a narrow side corridor. They moved silently, avoiding detection, every step precise, every breath controlled. The drones followed the main hall, unaware of the squad's presence. Elias guided them to a safe area, a small room with solid walls and stable gravity. The squad collapsed inside, catching their breath. For the first time in hours, they felt safe. They looked at Elias, understanding that he had saved them not just with strength, but with intelligence and foresight. The human knelt, examining the squad. No one was seriously injured, though muscles ached and joints were strained. He activated the band briefly, reducing gravity further, giving them a chance to recover. The squad began to understand the true nature of the band. It was not just a tool of strength. It was a tool of survival, control, and teaching. After a moment, Elias stood and gestured for the squad to continue. The maze-like hall awaited, more dangerous than before. They followed, moving with more confidence, more precision. They adjusted their movements, imitating the human's posture, timing, and breathing. The squad was learning quickly, each member absorbing lessons from observation. The hall opened into a wide chamber. Platforms shifted, walls moved, and gravity varied across different areas. The squad paused, assessing the challenge. Elias moved forward, stepping lightly but firmly. He adjusted the band, stabilizing key sections and allowing the squad to advance safely. Each step was deliberate, balancing gravity and motion, showing the squad how to adapt. A sudden shift caused part of the chamber floor to tilt dangerously. One member stumbled, sliding toward the edge. Elias reacted instantly, adjusting the band to counter the tilt and sending a stabilizing pulse across the floor. The squad member regained footing, gasping, and looked at Elias with awe. They began to understand the depth of human training and adaptability. The instructor observed silently, his mind racing. He had underestimated the human and now realized the mistake. Humans had evolved under conditions that required constant adaptation, resilience, and intelligence. Their strength was not only physical but also mental and tactical. Elias embodied all of these traits, and the squad was witnessing them firsthand. As they moved through the chamber, gravity continued to fluctuate. Platforms shifted, walls rotated, and the squad struggled to maintain balance. Elias adjusted the band continuously, guiding them with subtle movements and gestures. The squad followed, learning quickly, mimicking his timing and control. Each obstacle became a lesson, each step a chance to improve. Hours passed, or perhaps it was only minutes. Time seemed distorted under the fluctuating gravity. The squad moved steadily, adapting, learning, and surviving. Elias remained a constant guide, his control over the band precise and unwavering. The squad began to trust not just him, but themselves, understanding that observation and adaptation were key to survival. At the end of the chamber, a large gap awaited. The floor on the other side was unstable, shifting slightly with each step. The squad hesitated. Elias stepped forward, adjusting the band to stabilize the gap just enough for a safe crossing. He gestured for the squad to follow. One by one, they moved across, careful but determined. Each step was hard-earned, each breath deliberate. Once across, the squad paused again. They were exhausted, but a new sense of understanding had formed. They had survived impossible gravity, shifting platforms, and automated security systems. They had learned to observe, adapt, and follow precise movements, and through it all, Elias had guided them, showing the true nature of human resilience and discipline. The instructor, finally speaking, addressed the squad. "You have witnessed something rare today. Humans are not just another species. They endure, adapt, and teach in ways few others can understand. Remember this. Learn from it. Respect it." The squad nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. They had seen it, felt it, and survived it. Humans were not weak, reckless, or ordinary. So, were. They were a force shaped by impossible conditions, capable of endurance, intelligence, and control beyond expectation. Elias lowered his arms slightly, the band humming softly. He looked at the squad, his expression calm but serious. The lessons were not over. The station still held more challenges, more obstacles, and more tests of endurance. But the squad now understood the path. They would survive, adapt, and learn. Guided by the human who had already conquered the impossible, they moved forward together, every step measured, every breath controlled. The hall stretched ahead, dark and shifting, but the squad no longer feared it. They had learned to follow, to observe, and to adapt. And they had learned that humans, even ordinary ones like Elias, were capable of greatness that surpassed expectation. The squad moved deeper into the training station, the corridors twisting and turning unpredictably. Gravity was still high, though slightly lower than before, enough to push their bodies to the limit but not crush them. Every step was a battle against exhaustion, but the squad followed Elias, learning from his careful movements and controlled breathing. The walls shifted suddenly, opening to a larger chamber filled with moving platforms and rising obstacles. Sensors on the floor blinked with warnings. The squad froze, muscles trembling, unsure how to proceed. Elias stepped forward calmly, adjusting the gravity band subtly. A low hum filled the air, barely audible, yet enough to stabilize the nearest platforms. He gestured for the squad to follow, and one by one they moved carefully, mimicking his posture and breathing. A sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed, and an automated system indicated that intruders were approaching. The squad froze again, fear gripping their hearts. Elias understood immediately. The station's automated defenses had detected them. He tapped the control on his band, and gravity shifted in precise pulses, pressing the squad to the ground just enough to prevent them from being detected by motion sensors. They lay flat, muscles strained, hearts pounding. The automated drones entered the chamber, scanning for movement. Elias observed them carefully, calculating the timing. With a subtle adjustment to the band, he created a corridor of normal gravity just for the squad to move through. Step by step, they advanced silently, barely lifting their bodies, following Elias's guidance. Each movement was deliberate, each breath controlled. The squad realized that survival depended not only on strength, but on intelligence and awareness. A sudden obstacle appeared ahead, a swinging barrier that threatened to knock the squad back into the floor. The scout tried to dash forward but was pushed back by the high gravity. Elias moved swiftly, adjusting the band to stabilize the barrier just enough for the squad to pass. He gestured for them to leap in sequence. Carefully, they timed their jumps and crossed safely, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The instructor watched in stunned silence. Elias was not just surviving. He was controlling the environment, teaching the squad how to adapt under extreme conditions. Each obstacle became a lesson, each failure a chance to learn. The human had demonstrated something beyond mere strength. Resilience, precision, and strategy combined into one. The squad continued, moving through the chamber with greater confidence. They imitated Elias's movements, learned to anticipate shifts in gravity, and adjusted their timing to avoid falling. Even the heavier members found themselves moving with more stability, their muscles adapting to the pressure as they observed and copied the human. A narrow bridge appeared ahead, suspended over a deep gap. The bridge swayed slightly with every step, and the squad hesitated. Elias stepped onto it, adjusting the band to counter the swaying. His movements were precise and balanced, each step calculated. He gestured for the squad to follow. One by one, they crossed, muscles straining, hearts racing, but they made it safely. The lesson was clear. Observation, patience, and calculated movements could overcome any challenge. The hall opened into a larger room, more dangerous than before. Platforms rose and fell, walls rotated, and gravity fluctuated across different areas. The squad paused, assessing the challenge. Elias moved forward, his band humming softly. He adjusted gravity subtly, stabilizing key sections, and guiding the squad safely through the shifting chamber. Every movement was deliberate, every adjustment precise. Suddenly, the floor beneath a squad member tilted violently. The trooper stumbled, sliding toward the edge. Elias reacted instantly, sending a stabilizing pulse through the band. The gravity shifted, giving the trooper just enough balance to stop. He looked up at Elias with wide eyes, understanding for the first time the depth of the human's control and the importance of adapting to impossible conditions. The squad continued, learning and adapting with each step. They understood now that survival was not about brute force, but about observation, intelligence, and timing. Elias led them with quiet confidence, demonstrating every technique and allowing them to learn through experience. The squad's movements became more synchronized, more controlled, and more deliberate. They were becoming stronger, not just physically, but mentally. A sudden warning flashed across the sensors. The station's systems detected a new threat. Incoming hostiles targeting the station. Panic rippled through the squad. Elias's eyes narrowed. This was real, not training. The gravity band pulsed as he adjusted the environment, preparing for the incoming danger. The squad looked at him, unsure, but they trusted his judgment. They knew that survival depended on following his lead. The first wave of hostiles arrived, robotic scouts designed to test the station's defenses. They moved quickly, weapons raised, scanning for intruders. Elias assessed the situation calmly. With a subtle adjustment to the band, he increased gravity in the immediate area, slowing the scouts' movements without harming the squad. The robots stumbled, some tipping over, some moving sluggishly. The squad watched in awe as Elias controlled the battlefield without a weapon, using the environment itself as a tool. The squad moved forward under his guidance, learning to navigate the altered gravity while avoiding the hostiles. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. The humans' training had prepared them for situations that would have overwhelmed others. The squad realized that their survival depended on observation, adaptation, and discipline, lessons that Elias was teaching them in real time. As the hostiles advanced, the squad faced new challenges. Moving platforms, rotating walls, and fluctuating gravity created a chaotic environment. Elias adjusted the band continuously, stabilizing sections for the squad to move through. He demonstrated technique silently, allowing the squad to mimic his movements and maintain balance. Each obstacle became a lesson, each success a step toward understanding human resilience. Hours seemed to pass in minutes as the squad navigated the chamber. They learned to move with precision, to anticipate shifts in gravity, and to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Elias remained calm and focused, his band humming softly, guiding them through every challenge. The squad realized that survival was not just about strength. It was about intelligence, observation, and discipline. At the end of the chamber, a large gap awaited. The floor on the other side was unstable, shifting with each step. The squad paused, unsure how to cross. Elias adjusted the band, stabilizing the gap just enough for a safe crossing. He gestured for the squad to follow. One by one, they moved across, muscles straining, hearts racing, but they made it safely. They had learned to trust both the human and themselves, understanding the true nature of human endurance and adaptability. The squad paused briefly, catching their breath. They were exhausted but had gained new confidence. They had survived high gravity, shifting platforms, automated defenses, and real threats. They had learned to observe, adapt, and follow precise movements. Elias had guided them through every challenge, demonstrating the power of human resilience and intelligence. The instructor, watching from a safe distance, finally spoke. "Humans are not just another species," he said. "They endure, adapt, and teach in ways few others can comprehend. Remember this lesson, respect it, learn from it." The squad nodded, understanding the weight of his words. They had seen it, felt it, and survived it. Humans were not weak or ordinary. They were a force shaped by impossible conditions, capable of endurance, intelligence, and control beyond expectation. Elias lowered his arm slightly, the band humming softly. He looked at the squad, calm but serious. The lessons were not over. The station still held more challenges, more obstacles, and more tests of endurance. But the squad now understood the path. They would survive, adapt, and learn, guided by the human who had already conquered the impossible. They moved forward together, every step measured, every breath controlled. The hall stretched ahead, dark and shifting, but the squad no longer feared it. They had learned to follow, to observe, and to adapt. And they had learned that humans, even ordinary ones like Elias, were capable of greatness that surpassed expectation. The alarms blared across the station, red lights flashing in every corner. Elias felt the shift immediately. This was no longer a test. The sensors indicated real hostiles entering the station. The squad froze for a moment, fear gripping them, muscles tense under the persistent gravity. Elias's eyes narrowed. This was what they had prepared for in training, but it was more dangerous, more unpredictable. He adjusted the band slightly. Gravity shifted in controlled pulses, pressing the squad closer to the floor, anchoring them without harming them. Their bodies were pressed, muscles straining, yet they could move. The human's control was precise, a silent command that gave the squad the chance to survive. The first wave of intruders entered, robotic soldiers designed for speed and force. They scanned the area, weapons ready. The squad panicked, unsure how to respond. Elias assessed the situation calmly. With a subtle motion of his hand, he activated the band further, increasing gravity in the immediate area around the intruders. The robots stumbled, slowed, and some fell entirely, unable to adapt to the sudden weight pressing down on them. The squad watched, wide-eyed, as Elias continued to manipulate the gravity. No weapons were used, no energy blasts. Just controlled pressure and calculated movements. They saw the power of humans trained under impossible conditions, using intelligence and adaptation rather than raw strength to dominate the environment. Elias led the squad forward, guiding them through the hallways with careful movements. Platforms shifted, walls rotated, and gravity fluctuated in different sections. Each step required precision. He adjusted the band continuously, stabilizing floors, controlling obstacles, and slowing the intruders without harming his squad. The human's awareness of the environment was almost preternatural, each movement calculated, each adjustment perfect. The squad began to follow, learning by observing. They copied his breathing, his posture, his timing. Every step they took was deliberate. They adapted to the changing gravity, balancing their weight and timing their movements to avoid falling or being pushed back. Slowly, they began to trust in his control and in their own growing abilities. The intruders advanced further into the station, unaware of the traps Elias was subtly setting with his band. Gravity pulses shifted them off balance, slowed their movements, and caused some to topple over unstable platforms. The squad moved silently, avoiding detection, their bodies trained to respond to the environment in real time. Each member now understood that survival was not about power, but about adaptation, observation, and precise control. A sudden shift of platform sent one of the squad members sliding dangerously toward the edge of a high ledge. Elias reacted instantly, sending a stabilizing pulse through the band. Gravity adjusted just enough to anchor the trooper, preventing a fall. The squad member breathed heavily, looking at Elias with awe and gratitude. They had never witnessed control like this, a mastery of both the human body and the environment itself. The squad continued, moving through corridors that shifted and rotated unpredictably. Elias guided them with silent gestures, adjusting the band to stabilize floors and obstacles. Every movement was deliberate, teaching the squad the rhythm and control necessary to survive. They learned to anticipate shifts in gravity, to move in unison with the environment, and to trust the human who had already conquered the impossible. The instructor observed from a safe distance, his mind racing. He had underestimated the human, assuming that strength alone defined survival. He now realized the error. Humans were not just resilient. They were strategic, intelligent, and capable of controlling situations beyond expectation. Elias embodied all these traits, and the squad was learning from him in real time. As they entered a large chamber, the gravity shifted unpredictably, and platforms rose and fell without warning. The intruders advanced, their movements slowed by the controlled gravity, but still a threat. Elias adjusted the band, stabilizing sections of the chamber to create safe passages for his squad while keeping the intruders off balance. Every motion was calculated, every adjustment precise, turning the environment itself into a weapon. The squad followed, moving in a coordinated manner, each member aware of the rhythm Elias set. They learned to shift their weight, to time their steps, and to adapt instantly to changing gravity. Even the heaviest members found themselves moving with stability, understanding for the first time the depth of human adaptability. Every obstacle became a lesson, every success a step closer to mastering their environment. Suddenly the intruders fired, but the squad remained unscathed. The projectiles were slowed by increased gravity in specific zones, allowing the squad to dodge or move without resistance. Elias continued to manipulate the band, guiding the battlefield with precision. No one needed weapons. The environment itself was now an extension of his will. Hours seemed to pass as the squad moved through the chamber, learning, adapting, and surviving. Each wave of intruders tested their endurance and adaptability. Elias remained calm, his control of the gravity band flawless, teaching the squad without words. They realized that human strength was not measured in raw power, but in intelligence, resilience, and the ability to manipulate impossible conditions. A sudden tilt in the chamber floor caused one of the squad members to stumble. Elias adjusted the gravity subtly, preventing a fall, and gestured for the member to regain balance. The squad followed, learning to react to changes in gravity instinctively. They began to trust themselves, their bodies, and the human who guided them through each challenge. The intruders advanced once more, but Elias's control kept them off balance and slowed their movements. The squad moved with precision, navigating the chamber and overcoming obstacles with newfound confidence. They had learned to adapt, to anticipate, and to survive in conditions that would have crushed them before. Finally, the chamber cleared. The intruders were disabled or slowed, and the squad reached a stable area. They collapsed to the floor, exhausted but alive. Elias lowered his arm slightly, the band humming softly. He looked at the squad, calm but serious. They had survived, adapted, and learned under extreme pressure. They understood now the true power of human resilience, intelligence, and control. The instructor approached, finally speaking. Humans are not just another species. They endure, adapt, and teach in ways that few others can understand.
You have witnessed it firsthand. Remember this lesson.
Respect it. Learn from it. Bow. The squad nodded, exhausted but aware of the significance of the experience. They had survived high gravity, shifting platforms, automated threats, and hostile forces, guided by a human who had mastered the impossible. They had learned to observe, adapt, and follow precise movements. The human's discipline and intelligence had shown them a new level of survival and power. Elias activated the band one last time, stabilizing gravity across the chamber. The squad rose slowly, muscles still sore but minds sharp. They had learned to trust, to adapt, and to move with precision. They understood the lesson fully. Human endurance was not just physical, but mental and strategic. They had witnessed the true strength of humanity, and they would carry that knowledge forward. As they moved to the next section of the station, every step measured, every breath controlled, The squad knew they had changed. They had survived under conditions that would have broken most species. They had learned to adapt, to observe, and to follow. And they had learned that humans, even one human like Elias, were capable of conquering impossible challenges, turning the environment itself into a weapon, and teaching resilience in real time. The squad moved to the final corridors of the training station, their bodies exhausted and battered, but their minds sharper than ever. Every member had learned the rhythm of survival, the lessons of observation and adaptation. Elias led the way, his arms steady, the gravity band humming softly as it maintained the perfect balance of pressure for their movement. The halls narrowed again, the walls shifting unpredictably, testing the squad one last time. Gravity fluctuated slightly, enough to challenge them but not to cause collapse. The squad moved cautiously, each step deliberate, muscles straining but hearts focused. They had learned to anticipate the shifts, to balance, to breathe with purpose. Elias glanced behind, ensuring everyone was keeping pace. Suddenly, a distant alarm echoed through the station. Sensors indicated new hostiles approaching, faster and more heavily armed than before. The squad froze for a moment, the tension thick. Elias's eyes narrowed. This was the final test. He adjusted the band subtly, increasing gravity in precise zones to slow the intruders while keeping his squad anchored and agile. The intruders entered, moving with speed and intent. Weapons raised, they advanced, unaware of the environment itself working against them. Elias's control over the gravity band turned the chamber into a trap. The intruders stumbled, slowed, and fell, unable to maintain balance under the sudden shifts. The squad moved in unison, adapting to the changing floor and obstacles, avoiding detection and harm, guided by Elias's silent commands. One intruder lunged at a squad member, but the floor beneath them tilted slightly, gravity pressing them down and causing them to stumble. Elias raised his hand, adjusting the band. The intruder fell forward, sliding across the floor helplessly. The squad watched, wide-eyed, learning the power of controlled environment as a weapon. They realized that humans could dominate situations not with brute force alone, but with intelligence, precision, and adaptation. The squad moved forward cautiously. Platforms rose and fell, walls rotated unpredictably, and gravity fluctuated in different sections. Elias guided them with subtle gestures and band adjustments, stabilizing sections for safe passage and destabilizing others to hinder the intruders. Each movement taught the squad new lessons, reinforcing what they had learned through previous trials. A member of the squad nearly fell off a narrow ledge. Elias reacted instantly, adjusting gravity to anchor the trooper, preventing a fall. The squad member caught his breath and looked at Elias with awe. They understood now that human endurance was not just about strength. It was about awareness, discipline, and the ability to manipulate the environment intelligently. The intruders continued their advance, but the squad, moving under Elias's guidance, navigated the shifting obstacles with skill. Gravity pulses altered the battlefield, slowing and destabilizing the intruders while allowing the squad to move smoothly. Elias moved calmly, adjusting the band continuously, turning the environment into both shield and weapon. The squad followed, their trust in him absolute, their confidence growing with each successful maneuver. The instructor watched, amazed and humbled. He had underestimated humans, believing that strength and weapons alone defined survival. He now saw the depth of human resilience, intelligence, and adaptability. Elias embodied all of these qualities, teaching the squad silently, demonstrating that humans could thrive and dominate, even in impossible conditions. The squad reached a large chamber, the final section of the station. Platforms shifted and moved unpredictably. Gravity fluctuated, and the intruders were closing in. Elias assessed the situation, adjusting the band to create safe passages for his squad while destabilizing paths for the intruders. Every movement was deliberate, calculated, and precise. The squad followed, learning to move instinctively, to anticipate changes, and to trust their training and the human leading them. A sudden tilt caused one of the squad members to slide toward a platform edge. Elias reacted immediately, adjusting gravity just enough to prevent a fall. The squad member regained footing, breathing heavily, and looked at Elias with renewed respect. They realized that human endurance was not just physical, it was mental and strategic, turning the environment into an ally and a weapon. The intruders reached the chamber, but Elias's control over the band kept them off balance. They stumbled over shifting platforms, failed to coordinate, and struggled to advance. The squad moved through the obstacles with confidence, timing their steps and adjusting their movements according to the subtle cues from Elias. They had learned the rhythm of survival, the importance of observation and adaptation, and the power of controlled environment. Hours seemed to pass as the squad navigated the final chamber, facing the last wave of intruders and obstacles. Elias remained calm, adjusting the band with precision, guiding his squad through each challenge. They moved in unison, muscles straining but hearts steady, learning to anticipate shifts, stabilize themselves, and adapt instantly. Every obstacle became a lesson, every successful movement a testament to their growth and the human's guidance. Finally, the chamber cleared. The intruders were disabled, slowed, or neutralized. The squad reached a stable area, collapsing to the floor, exhausted but alive. Elias lowered his arm slightly, the band humming softly, signaling the end of the test. The squad looked around, realizing they had survived conditions that would have crushed most species. They had learned to trust, to adapt, and to follow precise movements. They had witnessed the true strength of humans. The instructor approached, his expression solemn. "Humans are not just another species," he said. "They endure, adapt, and teach in ways few others can understand. You have seen it.
Remember it. Respect it.
Learn from it." The squad nodded, understanding the weight of his words. They had survived high gravity, shifting platforms, automated threats, and hostile forces, guided by a human who had mastered impossible conditions. They had learned to observe, adapt, and move with precision. They had seen that humans, even ordinary ones like Elias, could conquer challenges that others could not imagine, turning the environment itself into a weapon and a tool for survival. Elias activated the band one last time, stabilizing gravity across the chamber. The squad rose slowly, muscles sore, but minds sharp. They had learned to trust themselves, to adapt, and to move with precision. They understood now that human endurance was not just physical, but mental and strategic. They had witnessed the true power of humanity, and they would carry that knowledge forward. As they moved out of the final corridor, the squad looked at Elias, silent but full of respect. They had survived the impossible, learned the lessons of observation, adaptation, and resilience, and understood for the first time the depth of human strength. They had seen it firsthand, and it would never be forgotten. Elias led them out of the station, his arm steady, the gravity band humming softly. The squad followed, every step measured, every breath controlled. They had endured the impossible, adapted to extreme conditions, and survived. And they knew now without a doubt that humans were not just survivors, they were masters of their environment, capable of conquering challenges that no one else could face, turning the impossible into reality and teaching others to survive alongside them.